What's not being said in your friendship circle about you? Hi, I'm Sunny, and that's today's question. I have 3 piles you guys can choose from. From left to right, pile 1, 2, and 3. You're more than welcome to pause the video if you feel like you need more time. Otherwise, I will go ahead and start with pile number 1. And remember to take your time if you want more than one pile. It's totally fine. Maybe there's a message for you and you need to hear it, and not everything might resonate. So, pile number 1, you guys have the Knight of Cups reversed. Followed by the Queen of Swords upright. So, pile number 1. Sorry for the cough. So, I think that there's communication. There's 2 ways this can go about. Either they're not saying what they really want to tell you and what they're really thinking internally, and I feel like it could be like specifically one person, more than actually just plural. I think you're possibly even channeling just one person too, but I think it's one person, like an individual you're looking at, like, I think this person's sorry, I think this person's not telling me the full story. Or I think this person is keeping information from me because they care about me, or they just don't want to hurt my feelings. Or if they are telling you something, it can be a little bit too hard to hear, and that's why they're kind of waiting maybe for the right time, or waiting to kind of be asked the right. Sometimes people don't want to say things until you're asking the right questions, because if you're asking the wrong thing, according to them, they feel like maybe they might overstep their boundaries. Oh my god. I'm so sorry for my voice. This week's been not a great time for my voice in that way. I don't know why it's coming in and out, but overall, this pile does feel that maybe either communication is like that, or communication is kind of cool and hurts. This person's kind of mean, and not mean sometimes purposely. They're just very cold cut. It feels like, I'm gonna tell you the facts. I'm not gonna be sparing you with pleasantries. It just feels like I'm gonna tell you what it is, how it is, and you're gonna accept the fact that that's the truth, even if you dislike it. I do think that maybe because they feel that you're more on the sensitive side, according to their perspective, that you might not take things as well as they could, or you might just not be prepared mentally to hear the actual truth of what they think about them, about certain subjects, for example. So if you have a disagreement, for example, about how maybe someone, because I don't necessarily think it's just one-sided, it's more so if you feel a certain way about how they might not be showing up for you, or they might feel that way about you too, but you might have a certain way about it that you guys see it as the other person is obviously doing that and not me. I'm still doing this. So it could be one of those miscommunication issues, or it could be one of those things where you know that it's not that you want to fight, but there's definitely argumentative type of discussions, right? Where you're like, well, I can't believe you told this person, all my stuff, right? Like, I told you that's like personal, that's just for you, and you didn't even care about it. You're like, and then the other party was like, whether it's you or them, it does feel like, well, I didn't think much about it. I didn't think you would get upset about it because you're so like open about it, or you're someone that's, regardless of whether you told me or not, you might end up telling him anyways. And it's little things like that, where maybe because you guys are petty, or maybe because you guys didn't know when to not stop when to stop talking. It can be one of those things where you guys argue like that and you get upset. So I do think there's miscommunication, or maybe words were exchanged and you cussed each other out, and that happened to be a little hurtful. It's like you guys might say some stuff to each other in that way, but you're like, ouch, that one hurt. Why did you call me the C word? Why did you call me the B word? Like, it's one of those things, like, it really depends on how you talk to each other, but I feel like you overstepped that like comfort zone of like, yeah, we're used to talking to each other like this, but somehow we like escalated that, and we use very strong, mean, hurtful words to exchange at each other, to get at each other, to get that like last word. It feels like that. So maybe that's why things aren't being said, or under the radar. Not under the radar, but yeah, under the radar, like it's being felt, where people, under the table, I think is the proper word. but people can feel it. It's like it's uncomfortable to be around you guys in that way because you guys haven't spoken, or if you will, it's gonna be like that, or it's gonna be like an explosive argument where you're gonna hurt each other's feelings, and then you're gonna ice each other out. Talk about Queen of Swords. Like really, really cutthroat words. So that's what's not being said overall. And I think you know this. I think this is just a confirmation. But overall, I do think that those softer words are not going to be said for a little bit longer, because there's things that need to be addressed and discussed, and you're going to have to clear the air out with this pile. It's not always too extreme. It's just sometimes that you don't always agree with your friends, and that's totally okay. Yeah, you're friends, but you guys can sometimes clash, and it feels like that, where you guys are clashing a bit in this moment in time, or you're keeping stuff to yourself, you're repressing it because you're like, if I say something, I'm not going to hold back. If I say this and address it, I know like I'm going to have word vomit and it's going to be mean. Like it might not be mean, it might be just the honest truth and very much factual, but because you're not like thinking, well, I feel and I say, like you're not using your softer words. So maybe that's why it can be a little bit meaner towards the other party, whoever you are. And it's like, what the actual F? I thought we were like chill. And you know, it can be one of those things that because sometimes you're trying to say something, just keep it to facts and, you know, stuff like that. The emotional person might get aggravated and feel attacked. It can be like that where you feel defensive, and it can be like that where it's like feelings are involved, emotions are involved, and that's totally okay, but that's not what's being said. It's basically that there's things simmering under the surface and you're being passive aggressive, for example, or you're being petty, or you're being nice and cordial, but you're keeping those things to yourself, but you know this person's like not telling you the truth because you know how they are, you know their personalities, and their personalities is very honest and maybe brute and you get sensitive about stuff. It could be one of those things. So next, pile number 2. Oh, okay, you guys got 3 cards. So okay, for pile number 2, you guys have the 7 of Pentacles reversed. There, sorry. Followed by the 6, but okay, 6 of Pentacles upright. Interesting. Followed by the Strength card reversed. There. Oops. Sorry. So for this pile, I feel that what's not being said in your friendship circle about you, I think that maybe it's very earthy. This is a very earthy pile, so I think it could very much be either your friends have earthy, grounded personalities, or you could be like that, or finances can be involved, maybe disagreements in regards to money. Like, example, I lend you money, I'd like it back kind of thing. I need it because like I helped you out in a time of need. Now you have to do that for me. Like maybe it's not so much that you have to like, I need it on the moment right now, but it feels more like, hey, I'm in a time of need too, please give it back. That's like money that I was depending on. At the time I didn't mind lending it to you, but I definitely need that already back. But because you're friends, it can be kind of troublesome to adhere to the fact that you have to say that more politely, and not so much cold like the first pile, but more so in the way it's like demanding. It feels like very expected, like you're very much more definitive. This pile feels much more definitive of like, I need this now, please, like please and thank you. But it does feel like you expect it. So whether it's you or the other person, it can feel like that. I do think that maybe someone's being a little bit impatient when it comes to that, or if it's not this kind of scenario, it could also be like someone was helping, right? It just feels like somebody was helping in this situation of like one of your friends, specifically maybe just one. I don't feel it's so many. But if it is plural, like example, your friend or friends have been helping you like in a low situation, right? And they've been helping you with amenities like taking you to places when they haven't been expecting any gas money, for example, or taking you to places when you needed emotional support, for example. Not so much that it's like that's what they need to do, but like they were there, they were physically there, they took you to the place, they stuck around you with waiting time and like appointments and stuff, for example. And maybe they also helped you with like lending you money to pay some bills, or maybe they helped you pay for food sometimes, or take you out and they're like, I got this, don't worry about it, because they know what it's like to be in a not great situation. Not saying that this is like bougie, but it feels very much practical of like, oh, it's just a Coke or oh, it's just a snack, don't worry about it, like it's no biggie. Coffee, it could be one of those menial things that are smaller and that's not biggie, but it adds up, right? It's like one of those things where maybe it became too much of a habit, maybe it was a purposeful habit that you're like, you relied on them too much and you're like, okay, well, they can always help me out. And it's kind of like, yeah, they're there, but you're taking advantage of that kindness a bit. Or because you were in emotional, like it's back and forth, or because you were in an emotional state or a vulnerable state with the strength card reversed as well, it feels like, oh, I needed this help and thank you so much, but where is their thank you to? Or where's like you appreciating them back to some extent, allowing them to, it doesn't always have to be a monetary favor. It can be a favor of exchanges, like if I give you something, you give me something in return in another form, but exchange something, even including energy. Like if I'm putting effort into our friendship, give it back, right? Because it's a healthier version of, it's a more balanced way of saying it's a good friendship. And maybe it's a little bit lopsided in the way where it's like it's not even. I think sometimes one person's receiving a lot and another person is not receiving it back. So I worded that terribly, but you know what I'm trying to say. So it feels like maybe that's where there's some discrepancies, and it can be a little bit troublesome because they want to not feel like, they're being used. It feels like one friendship feels like it's being used, whether it's you or them, but it does feel like they would like that to not be like that. They want to be honest about it. It might not be something you're comfortable with because it's basically laying the facts, right? Not the emotional side's gonna get to you, but it's just the fact that I think it needs to be addressed. So that's how it feels with this vibe. I also feel that maybe there's impatience. I think that someone's trying to be patient with the other side, but it's just that they're not fixing themselves as soon as they want, or they're not earning that income back as fast as they'd like, and they're just kind of like waiting, but they're like, well, I kind of need it like now. Like I know you're not in a great spot, but like, understand that I'm giving you a hand and you took an arm, kind of thing. So yeah, it feels like these conversations are involved in like investments that need to be returned, for example, or friendships that need to be returned in terms of energy. And it's like, hey, I helped you out in a time of need, help me out too. Like, let's be honest and vulnerable. Like, it's not fun, but like I'm laying down my temper. It feels like they're understanding enough to be practical. Like, look, I'm not gonna get too angry about it, but I need you to do this. Like, it's just reasonable, practical. So that's what I have for you guys. That's what this pile felt like saying. That's not being said. For pile number 3, you guys have the 7 of Swords reversed, followed by the 5 of Cups reversed. So I truly wonder if this pile, something that's not being said, is the fact that you or someone else is seeing you in a way, well, I think it will be the outside person. I think specifically one person. And maybe, so like, example, if your friend group has a majority of the opposite gender, you feel like you are someone that's being frequently hit on, right, for example. And people see this and they're like, whatever. Or they just turn like the other way. It's like, it's not my business. And suddenly they see that you, it's not that you're, I feel like maybe you or them are like example, someone's being sneaky and contacting the other person, and it possibly like the person you're interested in or the person they're interested in is you. So they're trying to be sneaky in the friendship group, and you're just like, meh. Like I'm over this. Like I'm looking for love, for example, but I'm not looking for love in this circle. I'm not gonna ruin this friendship circle. Or maybe if you did step on some ish, you're like, well, I did that. I'm trying to fix it. I'm not trying to do that again. It feels like you're trying to walk away from the messiness of not relying on the same typical people, right? You're not gonna be crying over spilled milk. You're like, you know what? I did that. It messed up. I'm gonna fix it by not messing up and stepping on that again, stepping into dipping into the friendship cup. And that's okay. You know, you live and you learn, whatever age you are. But, you know, fix it. Make sure that I do feel like you know that you're taking accountability to some extent, but you're like whatever. And maybe this person is still trying to hit it at you, like not hit it at you, but hit you up. There you go. So they're still trying to communicate with you, sorry, and trying to be like, hey, how's it going? Like, what you doing? Late night text, weekend text, trying to like send you pictures and stuff like that. You're just like, please stop. Like, it's just one of those things where like, I don't need this. I really don't. Like, it's just, is that toxic person in the way, not toxic like extremely toxic, but in the way where you're like, dude, I'm trying not to be in this cycle again. Like, please, like, stop. It really is, it's troublesome maybe for you, because maybe for some of you, you know that this person is good with their words. They know how to be sneaky. They know how to basically manipulate the situation to their advantage of like knowing how to put you into like a yes spot when you're just like trying to put boundaries of like, no, like let's not hang out alone, or let's not text like that, or like let's not use emojis, let's not use pictures, let's not like be asking each other about each other's days that frequently throughout the day. It feels like that. Overall, that's the vibe. Or maybe they want to address your past connections at some point. Not trying to call you out in a sense, but more so like, why'd you do that? Well, yeah, I guess sometimes it can be like that, but it's not so, they're not trying to point fingers. They just want to know why it ended up in that kind of situation, for example. Or maybe you're trying to look elsewhere for other connections. It feels like, I just feel that maybe you ended up starting a relationship that was going to be very messy in there. And maybe it was messy because this person was taken, and maybe you didn't know, or you did know. Or maybe it was messy because they were dating many people at the same time, like a little too many. And there's a lot of things that were not said. Like there's very specific situations that only you could address, right? But it does feel like they were being cunning, and maybe you were too. But it feels more that one person played the game better. How does that saying go? It's don't hate the player, hate the game, something like that. Yeah. So it feels like that. That's why that's not being said in this moment. I think maybe also you're not, I don't necessarily think that you're very open about this. I think sometimes because you're so private, they have a hard time kind of, how can I say, even though sometimes they know certain things, they can infer by certain behaviors because they've known you maybe for a long time, or if they didn't, or maybe it's still like a recent friendship, they kind of more or less know how your personality is. So just because they know that you're a bit of an introvert, or you keep things to yourself and you're more secluded to that way of like your personal lives, your business, but they know something's going on. They're kind of curious, and they're kind of just in like making good hypothesis basically about what really went down, and they're curious to ask, maybe like down low, or they're curious to ask you when you're like alone about, you know, stuff like that, because, you know, they want to know the drama maybe, or they want to know the tea. So it feels like that. It's like, I want to know what's going on with them, but I also know that they they won't really open up easily because they're more private about that, but they know that you have a very active personal life, let's say, very maybe juicy life according to their perspective. So that's why they could be curious, and that's not being said in your friendship circle, in your friendship goals. So they're just kind of curious. They want to know, what were your disappointments? Who did you like stop talking to? Like, did you think that maybe you just have a really bad sense of taste when it comes to people that you like because you invest yourself in them and you try to learn about them, but then you end up finding that these connections are a lot shadier or a lot messier than they actually are. It could be one of those things, but it could also be that you like that kind of relationship style, and it's not that you purposely try to find it, but you just have a taste for it, and it's one of those toxic traits that maybe they can assume you're involved in, but they don't talk about it. They do talk about it, but probably not in your face. They would probably talk about it behind your face. So that's what's being said here. And do take what resonates. I always tell people, like, make sure that you are more than welcome to get my interpretation, but use your guidance to kind of get your own interpretation to confirm or deny what you're actually experiencing or you're kind of intuitively feeling from a situation. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It helps me out with my channel, and thank you so much. So bye everyone. Have a great day.